Hold your power, one. Pause before you react. You know what gets most of us into trouble. It's not the problem itself. It's our reaction to it. Think about it. How many times in your life have you looked back and thought, I wish I had just waited a second before I said that, or did that? That's because our first instinct is almost never the strongest version of us. It's the raw, unfiltered version, the version fueled by ego, pride, or hurt. The real power isn't in what comes out immediately. The real power lives in the pause. The pause feels uncomfortable at first. When someone disrespects you, your body wants to fire back. Your heart races, your hands clench, your mind prepares the comeback. And that's natural. That's your fight or flight response. But here's the thing, reacting instantly puts them in control of you. They press the button and you jump. They say something sharp and you snap back. That's not power. That's being remote, controlled. The pause takes that control back. It's like pressing the buffer button in your brain. Someone throws chaos your way, and instead of catching it, you hold up your hand and say, internally, wait. Let me decide what happens next. That moment, even if it's just 3 seconds, is where your strength shows. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean you stay silent forever. It means you don't give them the satisfaction of dragging you down to their level. Think about professional athletes. The best ones aren't the fastest to swing. They're the smartest about when to swing. A boxer doesn't win by throwing punches wildly. They win by waiting for the right opening. Life works the same way. You don't need to react to everything. You need to respond wisely to the right things. Now, here's where people get stuck. They confuse pausing with weakness. They think, if I don't respond right now, I'll look weak. I'll look like they got me, but the opposite is true. Weakness is letting your emotions drag you around like a leash. Strength is staying calm, staying centered, and making the room adjust to your pace. That pause also gives you perspective. In the heat of the moment, everything feels bigger. An insult feels like an attack. A disagreement feels like betrayal, but step back, breathe, and wait. And suddenly you see it differently. What felt like a mountain is just a molehill. What felt like personal disrespect is actually just their bad day spilling over. One of the best things you can do during the pause is ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? Because your energy is your power. Not everything deserves it, and when you realize that, you start saving your power for the moments that matter. Another benefit of pausing, it creates unpredictability. People expect you to react. They count on it. They want the fight, the argument, the drama. When you pause, you break that cycle. You throw them off. And more often than not, they reveal themselves while you stay composed. That's power. So how do you practice the pause? Start small. Next time you get an irritating text, don't reply instantly. Let it sit for 10 minutes. Next time someone cuts you off in traffic, instead of honking, just breathe and keep driving. Next time your kid or coworker pushes your buttons, count to 3 before you speak. That's training your power muscle. Over time, the pause becomes your default mode. People will notice. They'll say, you don't get rattled easily, do you? And that's exactly it. You stop being the person who reacts to everything, and you become the person who chooses wisely. Here's the truth. Anyone can explode. Anyone can yell. That doesn't take strength. It takes impulse. But it takes a strong, self-controlled person to hold back, breathe, and decide on purpose. So the next time life tests you, and it will remember this, you don't have to give away your power by reacting right away. You can pause, you can choose, and in that choice, you take back control. Because your real power isn't in the heat of your reaction. Your real power is in the pause. 2. Don't argue with emotion. Have you ever noticed how arguing with someone in the middle of their emotional storm never ends well? You could have the sharpest logic, the best points, the clearest evidence, but none of it lands if the other person isn't in a place to hear it. That's because emotion drowns out reason. When someone is angry, hurt, or defensive, they're not listening to understand. They're listening to defend, to attack, or to prove themselves right. And when we jump into that storm with them, we lose our footing too. It becomes a battle of voices, not a meeting of minds. That's why real power isn't found in arguing with emotion. It's found in choosing not to. Here's the thing, when you argue with emotion, you lose even if you win. You might get the last word, you might shut them down, you might even prove your point, but at what cost? The relationship suffers. Your peace is shaken, and half the time you walk away feeling drained, not victorious. Now, not arguing with emotion doesn't mean you stay silent forever. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you know when the conversation is worth having and when it isn't. Timing is everything. Imagine trying to reason with someone who's drowning. You don't hand them a rule book. You throw them a life preserver. In the same way, when someone is overwhelmed by anger, sadness, or frustration, the best thing you can do isn't to lecture or argue. It's to stay calm, listen if you can, and wait until the waves settle. Because the truth is, you don't calm a storm by shouting at it. And here's where your power shows. Most people get sucked in. They hear the tone, they feel the heat, and they match it. Suddenly, it's chaos versus chaos. But you can choose to be different. You can choose to be the anchor in the middle of the storm. Think about the times you've been heated. Didn't it feel impossible to hear someone else's side until you cooled down? If that's true for you, it's true for them too. So instead of arguing in that moment, try this. Acknowledge the emotion without feeding it. Say something like, "I can see you're upset right now. Let's talk when things settle down." That's not weakness. That's wisdom. It's drawing a boundary that says, "I value this conversation enough to have it when we're both capable of hearing each other." Another powerful move, stay calm in the face of their storm. Calm is contagious. When you don't match their volume, their energy, or their pace, you create a contrast. You signal, "I'm not here to fight, I'm here to solve." And whether they admit it or not, that diffuses tension over time. Some people will test you. They'll push harder, raise their voice, try to bait you. That's when you remind yourself, you don't owe anyone your anger. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they're losing theirs. Your power is in staying steady. Now, let's be real, this takes practice. Your ego will scream at you to clap back. Your pride will beg you to win the argument right now. But pause and ask yourself, do I want to win the moment or do I want to win the outcome? Because those are not the same thing. Winning the moment might feel good for 10 seconds. Winning the outcome means building trust, respect, and peace in the long run. Not arguing with emotion also protects your reputation. People remember the calm one. They remember the person who didn't get rattled, who didn't blow up, who didn't make things worse. That builds credibility, and credibility is power. One more thing. Sometimes the hardest person to apply this to is yourself. We all get emotional, and when you catch yourself spiraling, arguing with your own thoughts, getting wrapped up in your own storm, the same rule applies. Don't argue with emotion. Let yourself feel it, but don't fuel it. Step back, breathe, and wait until clarity returns. So the next time someone comes at you fueled by emotion, remember this. You don't have to jump into the storm. You don't have to match their fire. You don't have to prove yourself in that moment. Your silence can be stronger than words. Your calm can be louder than shouting. Your self-control can be sharper than any argument, because in the end, the real victory isn't winning the fight. The real victory is refusing to let emotion run the show. 3. Set boundaries without apology. Most of us were raised to think that saying no makes us selfish, that setting boundaries means we're being difficult, cold, or unkind. But let me ask you this, how many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no and ended up drained, resentful, or frustrated afterward? That's not kindness, that's self-betrayal. Here's the truth, boundaries are not walls, boundaries are doors with locks. They don't keep everyone out, they let the right people in at the right times in the right ways. And just like a lock on your house doesn't mean you hate your neighbors, boundaries don't mean you don't love people. They mean you also love yourself. Your time, your energy, your peace, those are your resources. They're not unlimited. When you give them away freely to anyone and everyone, you end up running on empty. And here's the kicker, the people who truly value you will respect your boundaries. The ones who get angry at your boundaries are usually the ones who benefited most from you not having them. That's why setting boundaries without apology is a form of holding your power. It's standing up and saying, "My needs matter too." Now, let's talk about the without apology part. Most of us soften our boundaries by over-explaining. We say things like, "I'm really sorry, but I can't make it," or "I hate to be difficult, but I just don't have the time." We cushion it so much that it almost sounds like we're asking permission to take care of ourselves. You don't need permission to protect your peace. A boundary can be simple, it can be direct, it can be, "I'm not available then," or "that doesn't work for me," period. No essay, no guilt, no long explanation, because the more you explain, the more you invite debate, and boundaries are not debates. They're decisions, of course. That doesn't mean you have to be harsh. You can deliver boundaries with kindness, with calm, and with respect, but kindness doesn't mean apologizing for existing. Let's put it this way. When you go to the doctor and they tell you their office hours, they don't apologize for closing at 5 p.m. They don't explain why they can't stay open late just for you. They state their hours and you respect them. Why? Because those are the boundaries. You deserve to operate the same way in your own life. Boundaries also protect relationships. Without them, resentment builds. You start doing things you don't want to do, and eventually you burn out or explode. That hurts everyone involved. Boundaries, on the other hand, create clarity. People know what to expect. They know where the line is, and that clarity actually strengthens respect. Now, people will test your boundaries. They'll push, they'll guilt trip, they'll act disappointed. That's normal, but remember, their reaction doesn't mean you did something wrong. Their reaction just means they're adjusting to a new reality, one where you no longer sacrifice yourself at their convenience. The hardest part about boundaries is not setting them, it's holding them. Anyone can say no once, but it takes strength to hold that no. When someone pushes back, that's where your power shows. That's when you prove, not to them, but to yourself, that you value your own peace. And here's the beautiful part. The more you practice setting boundaries, the easier it gets. At first, your voice might shake. You might feel guilty, but over time you'll feel lighter. You'll notice you have more energy, more clarity, more space for the people and things that truly matter. Because when you stop giving your yes to everyone, you get to give your best yes to the right ones. So, let me leave you with this. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are not unkind for saying no. You are not wrong for protecting your time and energy. You are wise. You are strong. You are holding your power. The next time you feel guilt rise up when you say no, remind yourself, this isn't rejection, it's protection. This isn't about pushing people away. It's about keeping yourself whole. Boundaries are not the end of connection. They're the beginning of healthier ones. And the moment you stop apologizing for them is the moment you truly step into your power. 4. Detach from what's not yours. One of the easiest ways to lose your power is by carrying what doesn't belong to you. We do it all the time without realizing it. Someone gets angry at us, and suddenly we feel guilty. Someone is insecure, and we feel like it's our job to reassure them constantly. Someone has a bad day, and we take it home like it's ours to fix. But here's the truth. Not everything handed to you is yours to hold. Think about it like this. Imagine you're walking down the street, and a stranger tries to hand you a heavy backpack. You didn't ask for it, you don't need it, but they push it into your arms. You have a choice. Take it and carry their load, or step back and say, "That's not mine." Most of us in life take the backpack without question. We take people's anger, disappointment, guilt, and stress and strap it onto our shoulders. Then we wonder why we feel so weighed down. Detaching doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or unfeeling. It means you recognize the difference between empathy and ownership. You can care about someone without carrying their emotions as if they're your responsibility. Their anger, not yours. Their disappointment, not yours. Their insecurity, not yours. You can show compassion, you can support, but you don't have to absorb it. And here's why this matters. When you carry what's not yours, you lose sight of what is yours. Your peace, your choices, your energy. You end up spending all your strength trying to manage other people's emotions, and in the process you neglect your own. Here's a simple rule. If you didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. It's not yours. So, how do you practice detaching? Start by noticing when you feel weighed down. Ask yourself, is this mine to carry, or did I pick this up from someone else? Just that question alone creates clarity. Let's say a coworker snaps at you. Old habit, you carry it all day, replaying it in your head, wondering if you did something wrong. New habit, you pause and say, their reaction is about them, not me. You let it roll off instead of dragging it home with you. Or maybe a friend is upset with their own life choices, and they start unloading on you. You listen, you care, but you don't own their mistakes. You don't make it your job to fix their life. That's their journey. Yours is to support without sacrificing yourself. The toughest part of detaching is with family, because love makes us want to fix, to heal, to carry. But even with family, the same truth applies. You can't do their growing for them. You can't heal what they won't address, and when you try, you don't just lose your power. You rob them of theirs. Detachment is actually a gift. It says, I love you enough to let you face what's yours, and I love myself enough not to take it on. That balance keeps both sides healthier. Another thing, detachment doesn't mean disengagement. You can still show up, still support, still love deeply, but you love with open hands, not clenched fists. You listen without absorbing. You care without carrying. And here's the payoff. When you stop dragging other people's emotions around, you suddenly feel lighter, freer, stronger. You realize how much of your energy has been wasted on things that were never yours in the first place. People might resist at first. They might accuse you of not caring as much. But the truth is, you're caring better, because you're caring from a place of strength, not exhaustion. You're no longer drowning in their waves. You're standing on solid ground, able to help without losing yourself. So the next time someone tries to hand you their emotional backpack, pause and ask, is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, you can set it down. You can still be kind. You can still be supportive. But you don't have to take it on. Because detaching isn't about pushing people away. It's about protecting your peace. It's about refusing to give away your strength to things you cannot control. It's about holding your power, and that, right there, is one of the most freeing choices you'll ever make. 5. Choose calm over chaos. The world is noisy. People are loud. Emotions run high. And in the middle of all that, it can feel like the only way to be heard is to raise your own voice, match the energy, and fight fire with fire. But here's the thing. Chaos doesn't need more chaos. Chaos needs calm. Choosing calm doesn't mean you're passive. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it's the opposite. Calm is not the absence of power, it's the proof of it. Anyone can explode. Anyone can yell. Anyone can lose control. That takes no strength at all. But it takes real strength to stand in a storm and keep your peace. It takes real courage to respond without matching the chaos around you. Think about the people you've respected most in life. Were they the loudest in the room? Or were they the ones who held themselves steady when everyone else was losing it? Calm draws people in. Calm earns trust. Calm changes the tone of a room. Here's why. Chaos is contagious, but so is calm. When someone is angry and you match their anger, the fire doubles. But when someone is angry and you stay steady, their fire eventually dies down because there's nothing to fuel it. Your calm interrupts the cycle. Now, choosing calm doesn't mean ignoring the problem. It doesn't mean letting people disrespect you. It simply means you don't let their storm decide your response. You deal with the problem, yes, but you deal with it from a place of control, not chaos. Picture it like this. When a firefighter runs into a burning building, they don't panic. If they panic, everyone loses. They stay calm, not because the fire isn't dangerous, but because calm is the only way to think clearly enough to put it out. That's you in conflict. If you match chaos, you become part of the problem. If you choose calm, you become the solution. The tricky part is that calm often feels unnatural in the moment. Your body wants to rise to the level of whatever's thrown at you. Someone yells, and you want to yell back. Someone attacks, and you want to defend. That's instinct. But instincts don't always lead to strength. Discipline does. So, how do you practice choosing calm? Start by mastering your breathing. When you feel your chest tighten, your words speeding up, your voice getting sharper, pause, breathe. Even just a few seconds of controlled breathing tells your brain, I'm safe, I'm steady, I'm in control. That pause creates space for a better response. Another tool is lowering your voice instead of raising it. It may sound simple, but it's powerful. When everyone else is shouting, the quietest voice becomes the most noticeable. Lowering your voice signals that you're not going to be pulled into the storm, and often it forces the other person to lower theirs too. Also, choose your words with precision. In chaos, people talk fast, say too much, and regret it later. Calm people say less, but what they say lands deeper. Short, steady sentences carry more weight than long, heated rants. Of course, not everyone will like your calm. Some people thrive on drama. They want you worked up because it validates their chaos. But when you stay calm, you take away their fuel. You remind them that you're not playing their game, and over time, they'll either adjust to your energy or expose themselves for what they are. Either way, you win. Now, let's talk about perception. Calm isn't always about the other person. It's about you. When you stay calm, you protect your own mental health. You stop letting other people's moods hijack yours. You leave the interaction with dignity intact, not regret weighing you down. Think about it like this. Chaos burns energy, calm preserves it. If you match chaos all day long, you'll be exhausted, bitter, and drained. But if you choose calm, you'll end the day with peace still intact. And that peace is your power. So, the next time you're tempted to rise to the level of someone else's chaos, ask yourself, do I want to be pulled into their storm, or do I want to anchor myself in mine? One of those choices drains you, the other empowers you. Remember, the strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. The strongest person is the calmest, the one who doesn't get rattled, the one who doesn't give their energy away to every spark of chaos that comes their way. Choose calm, not because the world around you is calm, but because you've decided that your peace is worth more than their chaos. That's what real power looks like. 6. Remember who you are. The quickest way to lose your power is to forget who you are. Because when you forget, you start looking to other people to tell you. You let their opinions shape your worth. You let their approval, or their criticism, decide how you feel about yourself. And before you know it, your power is in their hands instead of yours. But here's the truth. You don't need anyone else's permission to know your value. You don't need their applause to know you're enough. You don't need their validation to prove your worth. Remembering who you are is about standing firm in your own identity, even when the world tries to shake it. People will project their insecurities onto you. They'll doubt you, dismiss you, maybe even try to tear you down. If you're not rooted in who you are, you'll bend and break with every word they throw at you. But if you know yourself, deep down, you'll stand steady no matter what storm comes. So, what does it mean to remember who you are? It means knowing your values. If honesty matters to you, then live honestly, even if lying might be easier. If integrity matters, then hold it, even when no one's watching. When you live by your values, you don't need outside validation because you're already aligned with yourself. It means knowing your strengths. You may not be the loudest, the fastest, the flashiest, but you have your own unique set of gifts. Maybe it's listening, maybe it's creating, maybe it's solving problems others can't. Own that. Don't let comparison steal it. Because when you compare, you forget. And when you forget, you give away your power. It also means knowing your worth. Not the worth tied to your job title, your bank account, or your follower count. Your worth that exists simply because you're human, because you're here, because you matter. When you remember that, no insult, no rejection, no failure can take it away. Here's the thing, people will try to define you. They'll put labels on you, too much, not enough, this, that, but those labels only stick if you let them. When you know who you are, you don't waste energy proving them wrong. You just keep being who you are, and eventually, the truth outshines their opinion. Remembering who you are also means remembering where you've been, every challenge you've overcome, every setback you've survived, every mountain you've climbed. That's proof of your strength. Don't forget it when the next challenge comes. You've faced storms before, and you'll face them again. The fact that you're still here means you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Now, here's where many people get it twisted. They think remembering who you are is about being perfect, about never doubting yourself, about always being confident. It's not. It's about coming back to yourself when you drift. It's about reminding yourself of your worth when the world makes you forget. It's about returning to center again and again until it becomes second nature. One of the best ways to practice this is through your words. The way you talk to yourself matters. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, you'll start to believe it. But if you remind yourself daily, out loud, if you have to, I am enough, I am worthy, I know who I am, your mind starts to align with that truth. Another way is through boundaries. When you set boundaries, you reinforce your identity. You're saying, this is who I am, this is what I will and won't allow. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. And here's the real beauty. When you remember who you are, you don't just hold your own power. You inspire others to hold theirs. Your steadiness becomes a mirror for them. Your confidence gives them permission to stand taller too. So, the next time someone tries to tell you who you are, pause and ask yourself, do they get to decide or do I? The answer is always you. You don't need to borrow your identity from the world. You already have it. You don't need to prove your worth. You already carry it. Remember who you are, because when you do, you stop handing your power to people who were never meant to hold it. And that, more than anything else, is the key to holding your power. Hold your power. We've talked about pausing before you react. We've talked about not arguing with emotion. We've talked about setting boundaries without apology, about detaching from what's not yours, about choosing calm over chaos, and about remembering who you are. Each of these on its own is powerful, but together they form something even stronger, a way of living where your peace is no longer negotiable. Holding your power doesn't mean you control everyone else. It means you control yourself. It means you stop letting people press your buttons, drag you into their storms, or hand you bags that were never yours to carry. It means you stop apologizing for protecting your energy, and you stop forgetting your worth when the world tries to make you doubt it. When you pause before reacting, you take back control of the moment. When you refuse to argue with emotion, you protect your peace. When you set boundaries, you respect yourself. When you detach, you free yourself. When you choose calm, you lead with strength. And when you remember who you are, you stand unshakable. That's what holding your power looks like. Not loud, not flashy, not explosive, calm, steady, strong. And here's the most important thing. This isn't about perfection. You won't get it right every time. You'll slip, you'll react, you'll carry things that aren't yours, but every time you remember these truths, every time you practice them, you grow stronger, you take back a little more of yourself. The world is always going to test you. People will always try to pull you into their chaos, but you always have a choice, and that choice is where your power lies. So, the next time life pushes, the next time someone tries to pull you off center, the next time you feel yourself giving away your peace, pause. Breathe, remember, this is my power, and I choose to hold it, because your power doesn't belong in anyone else's hands. It belongs in yours, always.